Hi, this video is on how to use the strategy roadmap for cultural tourism change. So why would you want to use a strategy roadmap? A roadmap helps you to determine in the long run what it is you want to achieve and what are the intermediate steps in getting to that future that you have in mind. Change takes time, and planning change also takes time. Being very much aware of what it is that needs to take place before you can get to where you want to go is very important in planning your strategy. And that's where roadmaps come in handy, because they tell you when and where to reach certain objectives in order to get to where you want to be in the future. Now, if you want to do that, I've mentioned that word future a couple of times. Determining that future comes first. Where is it that you want to go? What is it that you want to achieve? What should your destination look like in 10 or 20 years from now? And who would you need on board your team to make all that happen? That is what roadmaps do. That is the end point generally of a roadmap. So if you have an idea of what your future looks like as a destination and why you want to achieve it, then you can also determine what else do we need, or what smaller elements of that achievement do we need to establish first before we can reach that goal. You also want to make sure you are very much aware of why it's important to do this for your community, for tourism, for your economy, for your environment. All these things have to be formulated on the forehand. Otherwise, you create a strategy for something that you're not sure about if it is what you want to achieve. So determining why you want to have the strategy roadmap or what it is you want to achieve is crucial in moving forward. What you also want to determine is how you know you are on your way. So what intermediate moments in time are there that you need to know? Are we actually implementing the right things, and are they leading to the right results? And in this case, timing is of course everything. Nobody can really predict the future. We don't know what's happening in 10 or 20 years, but we can make plans for the future and see what happens along the way to make them come alive. The strategy roadmap starts with phase 1. In the end, it has 3 phases. Phase 1 has to do with reasoning back from where you want to go, from that future back into where you are right now. The short-term things that need to be arranged before that long-term goal can be achieved. So for instance, you can look at your current situation of your destination and determine what it is you need to do first. For example, you may want to become more attractive for cultural entrepreneurs. That is important to achieve your longer goal in saving immaterial cultural heritage, maybe. Now, if you know these goals, you can start determining your working group and your key stakeholders, for instance through stakeholder mapping. With them, you can formulate strategic interventions that you would need to become more attractive for cultural entrepreneurs. For instance, changing your permit system or collaborating with local education for them to start educating these entrepreneurs. And with that, you want to determine success indicators and goals for this short-term strategy. So when will you know that it's actually turning into a success? If you know that, you can move to stage 2. Stage 2 is all about, okay, what if we reach the goals of stage 1, and what do we then need to reach our final goal in that future that we have in mind? So it's reasoning backwards and forwards. You do that by starting to assess again where you are based on the success of stage 1 and how that would help you to get to that future vision. Typically, stage 2 interventions take a bit more time than the short-term ones, than the stage 1 ones. Now, the question is, how have you changed the situation with your short-term interventions to reach other goals? For instance, if you've changed the permit system, what has that made possible? Yeah? Does it now need, for instance, a regional investment fund to take a next step? And how, for instance, can you make local culture more visitable? So tourism actually can benefit from what you're doing with the cultural entrepreneurs. And once again here, you want to determine indicators of success in relation to long-term, but also to this short-term intervention that you're addressing. Stage 3 has to do with defining the interventions to sustain your cultural tourism change. So if stage 1 and 2 interventions have become successful, stage 3 is all about maintaining the situation in a sustainable way. Growth in itself is not sustainable. We all are aware of this. So we need to be sure that growing something doesn't become an objective in itself, but it's a means to an end. For instance, we wanted to save or conserve that cultural immaterial heritage. So if you can achieve that, then at some point you need to determine, okay, are we there now? Can we say we have enough now? What does that mean for the capacity of our destination? Should we have more places to sleep and stay or eat? Or do we have enough now? Should we change anything there to keep the status quo the way we like it? Of course, this is somewhat looking into the future, but determining these things is very crucial to make sure that the indicators you determined in stage 1 and 2 for success do not become the goal of the entire strategy itself. The strategy itself was there to achieve some future vision, and growth in itself cannot be that vision itself. It has to do with creating sustainable cultural tourism. If you have those 3 phases in place, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, this is when you start mapping them onto a map and really time framing them. How long does it take for a particular intervention to implement, and then for it to take its actions or have its impact on the local situation. Putting these together on a map can tell you how long it will take for your interventions to be successful. If you link that to the indicators that you've determined as well as success factors for each of the interventions, then you can also start to determine when it would be logical to start assessing whether you are being successful at the moment. So creating this map, creating this strategy roadmap of when to create interventions and how each of them follows each other or is in parallel with each other is really crucial in developing your strategy roadmap. Finally, if you want to use the strategy roadmap, we recommend using it together with dynamic house of quality, for instance, to determine your goals, but also together with destination design road mapping to look at the physical side of your destination, and with policy roundtables to make sure your key stakeholders are on board with your interventions. We wish you good luck in using the strategy roadmap.